Morning, guys. Morning. Good morning. I still sound bad, but I feel a million times better than I did a week or 2 weeks ago. So we're going to push forward because it is the 1st of August, and I read 16 books in July, mostly because I was on vacation and then I got sick. So I haven't done much but read in the month of July. But I cracked 100 books in July. We will talk about that. And I'm excited to talk about all 16 books that I read. Some were sleepers and surprised me. Some I had kind of high expectations for and disappointed me. Let's delve into it. Here is my little graph of all 16 books that I read. 16 whole books. It was a really great reading month for me. Nothing special or crazy, but it was just really, really solid. And I liked a lot of these books, and I didn't like some of these books. And so we're going to delve into what I liked and what I didn't like. So first up is The Housekeeper is Watching by Freida McFadden. I had been looking forward to this one to drop. I've read all of the Housekeeper books. And this one was super solid. Exactly what you expect from a Freida McFadden drop. It was really, good. I gave it 3 because honestly it felt a little bit washed and repeated from other housemaid books she's done. But it wasn't horrible, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I finished it. It was a Freida McFadden book. I think the highest I've given her books is like a 4 or 4.5. So for this one to be a 3.5, it's totally fine. Next up is a disappointing one, though, and that was Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I hate to even call it disappointing. I think my expectations were just too high. Powerless was so good. Powerful was meh. I wanted a lot more out of Powerful, but I knew it was a novella. I knew it was literally just trying to appease the people with more of a certain character's story. So my expectations weren't that high for Powerful. But for Reckless, my expectations were high. I expected to get a solid book 2. You guys know I'm a book 2 girly. And that book really drug in some parts. I mean, the amount of actual plot that we got in that book was very limited. It was mostly dialogue and banter and setting up for other things, it felt like. It just was not a good book 2 to me. And that's just me personally. I still gave it that 4 stars though because I did enjoy it. There were just multiple times where I was like, boy, this is really dragging. This is really just dragging, right? So yeah, I think I have a whole review of Reckless on this channel. So if you are a Powerful girl or if you've read Reckless, definitely go check out that review because I think it's a pretty decent review and gives my honest feelings on Reckless. But a book 2 that really surprised me, and I say that strictly because I had tried to read this book when it first came out and could not. I felt like it was a whole retelling of the first book, but I just needed to give it to some time, I think. So I'm talking about Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. So for a long time, Ready Player 1 was one of my favorite books. I absolutely love that book. And I remember being really excited when Ready Player 2 was announced to come out and when it dropped. And I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. It's going to tell more of the story and what happens next. And I think I read like 3 or 4 chapters of it. And I was like, is this just going to basically be the exact same thing that the first book was? Another competition and whatever. And I DNF'd it. And I actually think I did a video on why I didn't like it. And, yeah, so I decided to go back to it. I did it in audiobook format this time because I was looking for something to listen to while I was working, and this just happened to be available at the library. So this just happened to be available at the library, and I was like, oh, freak. Like, I really, really wanted to read that. And I'm sad that I DNF'd it, so let me give it another shot. Now, it has now been probably 5 or 6 years, at least, since I read Ready Player One as a reread. And I don't know if that's why, but I did read Ready Player Two and really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't feel like it was a retelling this time at all. Granted, it's been a long time since I read Ready Player One, so maybe it still would read like that if I read them back to back. But honestly, I thought it was fun. I feel like sometimes with these kind of niche, quirky books, you have to go into it with a really open mind. And I did the second time and just rode the ride and rode the roller coaster. And I actually enjoyed it. And I thought it was pretty decent. So, yay for that. Next up, I read Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. And that had been recommended really highly to me. And I did enjoy it. I have the second book on hold from the library. I didn't enjoy it like so much that I would go out and buy the whole series. But I did enjoy it. It is very YA. Your main character is 16. She goes to a college and finds out that she needs to hunt monsters. And yeah, it was good. There were some new ideas and new concepts. It is a main female character who is of color, and she deals with a lot of issues with that. So if you are a woman of color or a man of color or anyone who likes seeing representation in your fantasy novels, absolutely check that one out. There is a lot of representation. So I gave it 4 stars. I'm waiting to read the second book for it to drop from the library. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of new things that I hadn't seen done in YA fantasy. So that was great. Next up, we get to my cruise. And on the cruise, I read One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. And it was not my favorite Ruth Ware book. If you watch my cruise vlog, I kind of talk about it a little bit. It was just okay. It was definitely not my favorite Ruth Ware. I did enjoy it for sure, but I've read Ruth Ware's stuff way better, way better than that. So, it's totally fine. But One Perfect Couple is like a island game show. It's kind of like Love Island, but then it might be to death. It's not sure if it's on purpose or not. So just read it. She hits the fan on a Love Island type island. Next up, I read Hunt on Dark Waters, also while I was on my cruise. And this one is by Katie Robert. It was a 3-star read for me. It was okay. I found that I was pushing through it. I didn't care about the characters. It was just okay. Katie Robert is really hit or miss for me. I'm not sure why. I like some of her monster romances. Some of them are just not for me. But she's very, very hit or miss. And this one was like somewhere in between for me. So, there you go. But then I did read 2 5-star books when I got home from my cruise. And those were the Avery Keelan books that I read this month. Offside and Shutout. They're hockey romances dealing with the same kind of group of friends or team. They were super, super cute. I enjoyed the hell out of them. Lots of banter, lots of romance, smut, hockey, the whole 9 yards. I enjoyed those 2 books a lot. I finished out my Brandon Sanderson read. I think there's still 1 or 2 things that I haven't read that are maybe like his YA stuff or his comics, graphic novels, but I finished A Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England, and that is, I think, his last, like, non-YA written body of work that I have not read, and it is not Cosmere. It is essentially a man wakes up in medieval England and realizes he has paid for this, like, frugal wizard's vacation package. And he's got to figure out what the heck is going on, who he is, and also survive in medieval England. So it was a super fun read. I did that one on audio as well, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It had lots of quirk to it, had lots of banter, and I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. Then we have another disappointing one for me, Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I was really, really looking forward to this one. I may reread this one during October timeframe, like Halloween timeframe. It is essentially a haunted house novel with a lot of backstory for this small Kentucky town. It touches on poverty. It touches on a lot of different things. It's very much gothic fiction. And sometimes that just isn't my favorite thing to read in the middle of July in the summer. I really have to be in the right mindset to read gothic fiction, and I just wasn't. I did push through and finish it, but it really was a push through to finish it. I had really high expectations on that one, and they fell short. Fortunately, I did not care for Starling House, which bummed me out. But then another one that wasn't on my radar that I read and got 5 stars was Stacy Willingham's All the Dangerous Things. I had seen a lot of people posting about this one, and it just so happened to be available for me from the library. And I was like, well, crap, let me just grab it since it's available. It wasn't on my TBR for July, but it's available, and I've been wanting to read something good and a thriller. So I read it. It is about a woman whose son goes missing, and there are a lot of scenarios surrounding it, and it was so good. It was a 5-star read from me. One of the better thrillers I've read in a really long time. Kept me on my toes, trying to figure out if this woman was crazy. Very much like you're unsure of the narrator. Unsure of the narrator. Unreliable narrator. That's the word I was looking for. And very, very, very good. So I enjoyed that. All the Dangerous Things a lot. Might have been one of my favorite reads of the month. Next we did Night Shift by Annie Crown. I've had that one for a while on my TBR, and I enjoyed it. It was a basketball romance. It was cute, funny, a little spicy. Just thoroughly enjoyed it. It had one of my favorite lines that I was not expecting. So on our cruise, our girls' cruise, we had this little thing where the bride had seen a TikTok that was like, surprise, shawty. I'm probably sounding crazy saying it, but I was reading through this book, and literally one of the main character's best friends walks up to him and says, surprise, shawty. So then I had to screenshot it, send it to the whole group. It was just so funny. But yeah, I really enjoyed Night Shift. I gave it 4 stars. It was super good. My next 2 reads, Glint and Gleam by Raven Kennedy, are book 2 and 3 of the Plated Prisoners series of hers. I read the first book in this 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and I did not like the first book. And I was like, okay, DNFing the series. But then I saw a TikTok. Sorry for all the edits. I'm trying to edit out my coughing. But I DNF'd the first book in the Plated Prisoner series. But then I saw a TikTok that was like, oh my god, book 2 and book 3 of this series are so good. Way better than the first 2 book or the first book. You finally meet the actual male love interest in book 2. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give it another try. This is a King Midas retelling, if you would. And I actually really thought that book 2 and 3, Glint and Gleam, were solid. 4 stars for me across the board. Actually, really, really, really liked them a lot. Then we did my 100th book of the year, you guys. Honestly, I did not realize it was my 100th book of the year, or I might have made a thing about it. I am glad it is the book that it was, which was The Girl Who Fell from Beneath the Sea by Axie O. Very Studio Ghibli vibes. Very whimsical. If you like the movie Spirited Away, it's very much like that. Every year this town must give a sacrifice to the sea god, and it's supposed to be her brother's betrothed. So your main female character jumps in and sacrifices herself instead, and it's just very sweet. It takes you through different realms, and like I said, it's got a very Spirited Away vibe. I thoroughly enjoyed this book a lot, and I'm glad it was my 100th read of the year. Also read Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rufy Thorpe. I saw this book on Jimmy Fallon on his options for his monthly read, and it is essentially a girl who has a baby with her professor and has to start up an OF in order to pay her bills, and kind of the repercussions of that. She's also got family issues, a crazy mom, a crazy dad, and she's just dealing with all of this while also having a baby. And I really enjoyed this book. It was funny. It was 4 stars. I think I'm looking at my little ranking. 70% of what I read this month was 4 stars, with a couple of 5 and a couple of 3s thrown in there. But yeah, I liked this book a lot. It was very funny. It made me laugh out loud multiple times. It was my free Audible for the month, was Margot's Got Money Trouble. So I did enjoy that. And then that's it. That's all 16. I was going to say Starbringer, but Starbringer I did not finish. Starbringer will be my first read of August. So yeah, 16 whole books. That's how I felt about all of them. Hopefully in the next video I do, I will have my normal Coffee and Lore voice back. Like I said, I'm no longer sick. My voice is still super, super drained and cracked. Yeah, I think the next book I'm going to be doing is a birthday haul. My birthday is Monday, and I'm really, really excited for my birthday haul of books. I made a little wish list. So we will see if I get any books that I've been looking forward to reading. So, I love you guys so much. Thanks for joining me in my frog voice today for all 16 books that I read for the month of July. Love you so much, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.